Gentlemen, the time for talking is over. The only path to change is through the bullet and the bomb.
Police! 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 Wat is dit?
Okay, wittes by wittes, kaffers by kaffers.
Ras het nie straathuis toe gekom nie. Bob hasn't come home either.
Hierdie manne was besig om die grondslag te lê vir 'n gewapende revolusie.
Waar is my man?
Lees môre se koerant.
Hulle sal 'n goeie advokaat nodig hê. Die beste.
Mandela.
Nelson, I should warn you, you're all in it together. If one jumps, you all fall.
Hang. Don't take this case.
I'm trying to save your life, Nelson.
I am trying to save yours, Bram.
Staan in die hof. All rise in court.
What have these men done that is so wrong? They've resisted apartheid.
It's a serious matter, Bram.
Jy het 'n morele verpligting, nie net as voorsitter van die Bali nie, maar as Afrikaner.
That man Fischer is one of them.
Bram, is daar iets wat ek moet weet?
Mr. John sal jou toegang gee tot die geheime dossiere van die Amerikaanse intelligensie.
We're lawyers, they wouldn't dare.
The security police, there's nothing they wouldn't dare.
Jy het geen reg om.
Bly staan, Fischer.
Ons het alle reg, Fischer.
How are the children? Are they okay?
Kan nie jou lewe opoffer vir 'n saak sonder om ander se lewens daarbey te betrek nie.
Jy kan nie so aangaan nie, Bram.
We will win.
Well, it tells a story of a man who did not become legendary like his client Nelson Mandela, but who was one of the key people in the fight for democracy in the country in the 50s and 60s. That's the opening night film at the Cape Town International Film Market and Festival, titled An Act of Defiance, the Bram Fischer Story. While the political thriller is directed by Jean Van de Velde from his adapted screenplay based on Joel Joffe's book, The State versus Nelson Mandela. Van de Velde joins us now from our Sea Point studios in Cape Town to tell us more about the film, which stars actor Sello Motloung, who plays a young Nelson Mandela. A very good morning to you, John, and welcome to Morning Live. Now, would you please take us through the film by giving us a short synopsis and the significance of telling the story of An Act of Defiance, the Bram Fischer story?
Yeah, I got the book. I read the book Joel Joffe's The State versus Nelson Mandela like 4 years ago. Producer Richard Klaus and Michael Red and Patricia van Heerden gave it to me. And, you know, I like 98% of the people out of South Africa, I hardly knew anything about this story of Rivonia. I knew Nelson Mandela, Robben Island, him becoming president, Morgan Freeman playing Nelson Mandela, but that was it. But reading this story, I realized there were so many people involved, and there were Indian people, colored people, white people. And then I realized the danger the lawyers must have encountered while defending these people. And I started investigating more about Bram Fischer. And that blew my mind away, because it was so difficult in those days to live a normal life when you were about when you were a danger to the apartheid regime.
Well,
and Bram Fischer was the guy who had it all. He had a nice house, he had a family, he had a pool, he had a career. He was supposed to be one of the brilliant new leaders of this society. And he gave it up everything, because together with Mandela and the other people, he looked for a non-racial society, and he was willing to sacrifice his life and those of the people he loved to achieve that result. And in the end, he was arrested because during the trial, the government realized that he was one of the key people in the resistance movement. So that really interested me to tell the story.
Now, Jean, could you tell us about the work that went into creating this film and what it taught you about apartheid and the system of apartheid?
Yeah, well, the work was wonderful to do, because I tried to get as much authenticity as possible. So I hired a total South African crew to help me, because I'm not from South Africa. I'm coming from the Netherlands, the country from which the word apartheid originates. But I also used all South African actors. I really was desperate to find a South African Nelson Mandela instead of once again using an American actor or a British
and Jean, why was that
actor.
So important for you?
Sello Motloung played it wonderful. What it learned to me is basically the same thing what is making a movie is about. You cannot achieve success on your own. And it's one of the things Mandela said in one of his speeches. You need other people to reach a goal and to reach your ideal. And the good thing about it is that these people, and they were all black, whites, colored Indians alike, non-racial, they reached the goal they were striving for. It took a lot of time, of course, but they succeeded. And that's really what was for me a key lesson.
All right, now, we know that Bram Fischer was Nelson Mandela's attorney, but what do we know, or what have you discovered about their relationship and its complexities, and how difficult was it to truly reflect that relationship, that camaraderie that existed between the two in the film?
Yeah. Now, the thing is that they both, in the movie, and I think in reality, they really... Well, love is a difficult word to use, but in a way they loved each other. In the sense that they both knew what they were doing. Like, for instance, when Mandela was convicted to life sentence and he went to Robben Island together with the other Sisulu and all Becky and Mangeni and all the others, the next day after the verdict, Bram Fischer's wife died in a car accident, which was a total accident. And... Fischer had to go to Robben Island like 3 days after the death of his wife to discuss a higher appeal with Mandela and the others. And he had the sensibility, one, to bring secretly chocolate for the men, and the other, he said to his companions, Joel Joffe and Bezos, don't mention the death of my wife. Because Mandela and the others knew Molly Fischer very well. And he said, don't mention it to them because they have such a hard life already, these prisoners. So I don't want their hearts to be burdened with this grievance. And when they met, Mandela, of course, asked Bram, how about Molly? How is she doing? And she died 3 days ago. So Bram then kind of, took the conversation in a little different course because he didn't want to know Mandela. And that's, that defines the relationship because they really were empathetic for both their emotions and their lives. And that's so important, for people to understand what is the other feeling. How does he feel? So that really defines for me the relationship that they both were caring of each other's lives. And that's why there's one key scene in the movie where Bram says to Nelson Mandela, I'm trying to save your life, Nelson. And Nelson says, I'm trying to save yours, Bram, because Nelson Mandela knew what risk Bram would be facing when defending him and the others.
Well, Jean Van de Velde, thank you very much for your time this morning. That is the director of the opening night film at the Cape Town International Film Market and Festival titled An Act of Defiance, the Bram Fischer Story. The festival takes place from the 12th to the 21st of October 2017 at the V&A Waterfront.